Welcome to the Are You GCSE Physics Ready playlist. This playlist is packed with example questions and guided solutions for every GCSE physics topic. So it's the perfect tool to help you test your understanding. If you feel like you might need a quick review of this topic before having a go at the questions, or you would just like the ideal revision companion for these videos, then do make sure to download my free GCSE Physics revision notes, linked in the description below. If you're ready, let's dive in.
Okay, let's practice using our equation speed equals distance over time. First question is to calculate the distance travelled by a car moving at a typical speed on a motorway in 10 seconds. So before I do anything, I'm going to identify the equation that I'm using and write that down. Speed equals distance over time. Now I'm going to look at my question and see which variables I can pick out. So I've got my time, t, is equal to 10. And then I want to know what my speed is as well. Since it is the typical speed of a car on a motorway, I should know that that's roughly 25 meters per second. Okay, then I'm going to write those two variables into the correct part of my equation so that I get 25 is equal to my distance divided by 10. Now I can rearrange my equation. So if I multiply my 25 by 10, that's equal to my distance d, which equals 250 meters. Okay, in the next question, I need to calculate the speed of an object which travels a distance of 60 meters in a quarter of an hour. So again, my first step is just write out the equation. And then I can identify which variables I have in my question. So I have that my distance is 60 meters and I've got my time as well, 0.25 hours. Now, remember, in this equation, your time needs to be in seconds. So I'm going to convert that 0.25 hours into seconds. To do that, I need to multiply it by 60 twice, and that gives me 900 seconds. Okay, time to plug those numbers into the correct part of my equation. Speed equals 60 over 900, 0.07 meters per second. Okay, and this final question is to convert 60 kilometers per hour into meters per second. So first thing I'm going to do is convert it from 60 kilometers per hour into how many meters that is that I'm traveling every hour. And since there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer, that must be 60,000 meters every hour. Okay, so then my next step would be, how can I convert it per hour into per second? So I need to think about the fact that there are 60 times 60, or 3,600 seconds in an hour. So if I divide that 60,000 meters per hour by 3,600, that will tell me how many meters that I actually move every second, okay, as opposed to every hour. And that gives me 17 meters per second. Okay, now we're going to look at dealing with calculating average speeds. So we've got to find the average speed of the following: an object traveling at 10 meters per second for 6 seconds, then 20 meters per second for a minute, and then 5 meters per second for 30 seconds. So first thing to do, write down my equation. Average speed is total distance divided by total time. So let's try and find that information in my question. So first, my total time. And I've got that 6 seconds. And then I've got that 1 minute. Okay, but I need that to be in seconds. So 1 times 60. And then I've got the final 30 seconds there. Okay, so in total, my time here is 96 seconds. Now I need to work out my total distance. So I have got to use my equation, distance equals speed times time. And then I'm going to work it out for each of the bits of the journey individually. So the first bit of the journey, that is my 10 speed times 6 seconds time. And then I'm going to add my second bit of the journey. So that's 20, my speed, times 1 times 60, my time in seconds. And the final part of the journey, 5 times 30. Okay, and I do that all in my calculator, and I should find that that's 1,410 meters. So final step is to go back to my original equation and say my average speed is that total distance divided by that total time. I have 14.7 meters per second. Remember, when you're calculating your average speed, you can't just do an average of the speeds traveled. Okay, and what are we doing here? Well, we have a student calculating the speed of an object and repeating that experiment 6 times with the results shown below. We are asked to calculate the mean speed of the object the pupil has recorded. So in order to calculate the mean, I need to add all the speeds together and divide by the number of results. But I need to make sure and check, do I have any anomalies? That is, any piece of data that seems to be some kind of mistake because it doesn't quite fit the trend of the rest of the data. And if I look at my speeds here, they're all quite similar, apart from this 14 meters per second. And if I think that the student must have made a mistake with that result, then I shouldn't really include it in my calculation for my mean because that will skew my data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that anomaly. And instead, I'm going to sum together all the other speeds and divide by the number of them remaining. So that is 5 different results for my speed. 29.8 meters per second. Okay, now I need to explain how a pupil can find the average speed of her brother in a sports day race. So this is an explanation question, but I would always start with thinking, what equation am I going to be able to use to do this calculation eventually? And I would write that down in my exam. Average speed is total distance over time. And then I need to tell the examiner, okay, how am I going to find the total distance and the total time? So if we start with the total distance, I need to tell them what I am going to use to measure that total distance. So some kind of instrument, so I can use a meter rule or maybe a trundle wheel. And then I'm going to state the units I'm going to be measuring that distance in, so in meters. Then I need to pick a sensible instrument for my total time. So this is going to be a stopwatch for me, and I'm going to say that I'm recording my time in seconds, therefore. And then I need to say anything I need to be careful of whilst doing this experiment. So if I'm physically using a stopwatch and timing, I should be thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to mention the fact that there is a human reaction time going on here. So I need to make sure that the distance is long enough so that the effect of any human reaction time is negligible. Okay, the time that it takes the brother to run this race is going to be over a long enough period that that bit of human reaction time doesn't really make a difference. Okay, and then it's always good to state, if you can and it's appropriate to the experiment, you're going to repeat and average your results.
Just before we go into the tips and tricks section, if you do want some extra advice to getting that grade 9 for your GCSE, then why not download my free 20-minute exam success guide? Just click on the link in the description below. I'm going to give away all of my best advice and secrets and completely for free, so why not?
Tips and tricks for this section then is your units in calculating your speeds. So for example, if you were asked to calculate a speed in kilometers per hour and they'd given you your distance in kilometers and your time in hours, then there's no need to convert. You don't need to put it in meters and into seconds. You can just divide 60 by 5. However, if they ask you to find a speed in meters per second, but they have given you distance in kilometers and time in hours, then you're going to need to convert your distance into meters first and your time into seconds before you plug it in to your calculation. Okay, more often than not for your GCSE, you will need your distance to be in meters and your time to be in seconds. Okay, so make sure you know to convert. And then the final thing is just to remember what I was saying earlier. which is if you're finding your average speed, to remember that is not a mean of all the speeds. It's not all the speeds added together divided by the total number of them. That would be your mean speed. Average speed, make sure you do your total distance divided by your total time.